In this video, I am going to continue on with my puzzle speedrunning game that I am making in Core. This is episode 2 of making this game in 3 days, and if you missed the last episode, go watch it with the link down below to stay up to date. Now before we begin, this video is sponsored by Core, so if you want to start making games right away, download Core with the link in the description. Oh, and it would be nice if you were to subscribe, it really supports the channel, and if you want more videos like this, then that's a good way of letting me know. Now let's begin. I started this day by thinking of different challenges that I wanted in this game. You may remember from the previous episode, I talked about having different puzzles through the kind of course of the game. Now generally speaking, that was my initial idea. And I did make one last time of having to unlock a door with the right button and having to find that right button. But recently I've been having a hard time trying to figure out what puzzles I want to make and how to actually make them. Now for those who don't know, Core works on Lua. And unfortunately, I'm not too skilled at Lua itself. I've tried to learn as much as I can, but in 3 days it's hard to be an expert at it. And although I know it a bit, I can make some simple puzzles, but more complicated ones take a lot more effort because I just personally don't know how to make them. So instead, I decided to make some very simple sections instead. So the first thing I started to work on was a moving platform system. This was pretty simple to do, especially because Core has this feature which allows you to browse templates made by other people. So whenever I got stuck, I could look at something similar that another person has made and see where I went wrong and what they did instead. It's a great system to actually learn Lua. Now to put it shortly, all I did was create a platform using one of the Core items and made a new script to make it move. The Core documentation showed me how to actually make things move, rotate and whatnot, and that's all I used. However, I only wanted the platform to move if the player activated it. So all I had to do was create a trigger by dragging it out of the game components, and making a new script that would detect whether a player has interacted with it. Now to do this, it's pretty simple. All you have to do is click on the trigger itself, make sure it has the interactable tick on the boolean, and then in the script, all you need to do is check if it was interacted. On that interaction itself, I then check if the interacted object with it was in fact a player, because sometimes different objects can actually interact with it. And then if that is the case, using events, all I did was call the function from a different script. And because I have a listener in the other script that does the moving, all I had to do is simply just call the function with events. There is a few more functions to the platform itself. Once you already use it, it will go in the opposite direction after using it again. This basically makes it reusable. Now, it wasn't the biggest thing that I needed to implement, but it's nice to have that in there. But I am not going to be getting into it because it's kind of unnecessary for this game anyway. A quick little update on a puzzle that I made last episode. I basically wanted to make this puzzle where you have to move the cube from one end to the other using different buttons. Now you may remember that I couldn't do this because of how client objects work, and if you want to know more about that, watch the previous episode. Unfortunately, I will not be able to implement it into this game at all because it doesn't really work with what I wanted to make, but it was still nice to have the experience of trying to make it. After this moving platform was finished, I created some stairs with details using the assets Core provides, and added some different materials to them to make them look nicer. I basically made a way for the player to step up to the platform itself to use it. Now something that I really like about Core is that they have quite a lot of different assets that you can choose from. This makes it so much easier to make a game as you don't have to go through the hassle of creating your own, plus they keep updating this library with new assets coming out. Next up, I actually browsed through the community library on Core where users can upload their own creations. I ended up finding this cool portal that teleports you to a location of this green cube, and decided to use it in my game. Now, as mentioned before, you can essentially reimagine anybody else's template, so I decided to use this instead of making my own as it definitely saved on time. Now the creator of this teleporter is called Luck of Buck for anyone else wanting to use it, and you can find it on the Core community library. At this point, I didn't want to make any more puzzle/sections because I wanted to keep the game quite short. It's meant to be a speedrunning game, and if it's too long, the player might just get bored of it. So instead, I started to work on making the second section of the map, which will be the final section of this game entirely. Similarly to the first section in episode 1, I used an assortment of different wall pieces and props to make it look nice. So here is the time lapse of me making this section. So now that I've finished working on that, I will show you what I currently have in terms of the game itself. Though before I do so, let me tell you more about Core. Core is a free game engine that lets you create games with thousands of free art, music and sound assets. Whether you want to set up a multiplayer game or make a short puzzle game like I am, Core can help you with that. Core allows you to remix, reimagine or make your own creations with no coding required. But if you like to get more technical, Core lets you create your own script with Lua to have more control over your game. If this sounds like something you would like to get into, then download Core with the link down below for free. Now let me show you what I have made. Okay guys, so we are in this game now. You may remember this from the previous episode. A few stuff has changed around here. The walls are slightly higher, but I'll get into that once we get to the second section of the map. This initial section is pretty much exactly the same as it was previously. You've got to just jump around and find which button actually unlocks the door. The only change that has actually been made to this is the walls are slightly taller and the material has ever so slightly changed. These white walls here still need to change colour because they do look kind of bland, but I am planning on doing that in the kind of third episode when I polish things up, add materials, kind of particles, decals and etc. Now once we go through this door, this is where the new section of the map has begun. First of all, we have this kind of landing dock with a few props. In here we can see we have the tall walls and a kind of roof over our heads, and we have these kind of red bars. Now if you step onto them you will die, so the point is that you're meant to jump over them. Going through here we of course have some like little decals, but more will be added in the third episode as mentioned previously. Once again we have some cool sci-fi props to fit the theme and some kind of rubble. Now this is where initially I had the first platform of the game be. I decided to change it and make it into this kind of like a little swamp. I still kind of want to add a few more items around here, and also need to kind of fix this because this looks a bit weird with the platform right now. Now this is the portal that I talked about before, getting it from the community page, and essentially the point is right now you can kind of run across it. But if you were to get to this other side, you will sort of notice that you can't really do anything while you're here. There's no way of you actually getting up to the other side. So what the goal is for the player to do, obviously you will not be able to walk on this, but right now I can, is to get to this portal and just jump through it. Once you jump through it, you will end up over here, and it has some cool particles that the creator has made. Once you're over here, your goal is to make it to this side. Now this is the platform that I made. You will be able to basically stand on it. Pressing F will move the platform to the other side, and the goal is just to stay on top of it. Now, I'm still thinking of maybe adding some kind of like swinging items here, or swords that you've got to avoid while doing so, because personally I think that would be a pretty cool idea. On the other end we have once again a few props and this cool kind of like carbon material which I actually really like. In here we have the finish line, so walking through this will stop your time and then show you your best time. Now this is the new section of the map. The white wall over here still needs to change as I mentioned previously, but I needed a way for the player to be able to restart their run if they want to get a better score. Now of course you can press escape and restart your game, but that doesn't seem like the biggest kind of best choice to make. So instead I made it so that you can run up here and basically just jump over to the start again. Jumping over allows you to go through the start again and start your time like so, to get just a better time. So that is it for this episode of me creating a puzzle speedrunning game in Core. The final episode 3 will come out next week, so if you want to see how this game will be brought together in the final episode, make sure to subscribe. If you did enjoy this video, give it a like, and go ahead and download Core if you want to start making games right away with the link down below. Not to mention, I want to thank my Patreons for the awesome support they always give me. Thank you TARDIS IT Guy, Smoking Vita, and Atomic Punk, you guys are amazing. And I'll see you all guys later. Bye!